The alarm bells rang across Colony Station Harmony 7. The sound made everyone stop what they were doing. Something was wrong. 6-year-old Daeho looked up from his drawing. His mother, Hana, was working at her plant station. She grew food for the colony in special rooms filled with lights and water systems. His father, Taemin, worked in the same building, fixing the machines that helped the plants grow. "Stay here," Hana told her son. She touched his head gently. "Don't move from this spot." Daeho nodded. He was a quiet child, always listening, always watching. He went back to his drawing of a spaceship while his mother rushed away. Outside, Commander Yoon Seo stood in the control room. She was the chief of security for the station. 3,000 people lived here, far from Earth, far from any major planet. They were alone out here in the darkness of space. "What do we have?" Yoon Seo asked. "A ship," one of her officers replied. "It's damaged. Life support is failing. The signal says it's Vekthari." Everyone in the room went quiet. The Vekthari were known across the galaxy. They were dangerous. They were predators. Most species stayed away from them. "Are they asking for help?" Yoon Seo asked. "No signal. No communication. The ship is just drifting." Yoon Seo thought about it. The rules said they should stay away. The rules said Vekthari business was Vekthari business. But she had been a soldier before she came here. She had seen too many people die when others looked away. "Prepare a rescue team," she said. "We're going in." 2 hours later, the rescue team returned. They looked shaken. They carried a large metal container sealed tight. "The crew is dead," the team leader reported. "All of them. But we found this. It's a biochamber. There are 2 living things inside." "Vekthari?" Yoon Seo asked. "Yes, but they're small. We think they're young. Maybe children." The station council met quickly. Dr. Hyun-woo, the xenobiologist, examined the chamber from outside. He could see movement inside through a small window. "They're cubs," he said. "Juveniles. I've never seen live Vekthari young before." "No one has." "They keep their children hidden. What do we do with them?" asked Ji-won, the station's diplomat. "We can't just throw them into space," Hana said. She had joined the meeting. "They're children. They're alive. They're also predators," another council member said. "Adult Vekthari are 8 feet tall. They have claws that can cut through steel. They make other species feel fear just by being near them." "These are babies," Hana insisted. "Babies that will grow up," the council member replied. They argued for an hour. Finally, Commander Yoon Seo made the decision. "We keep them alive. We keep them contained. We try to contact the Vekthari Empire and return them safely. We're not killers. We're not monsters." The biochamber was moved to the quarantine section. Dr. Hyun-woo opened it carefully, ready to close it again if needed. 2 small creatures stumbled out. They were nothing like adult Vekthari, but they were still frightening. Each one was about 3 feet long. They had 6 eyes that glowed in the dim light. Their bodies were covered in dark armored plates. Small claws clicked on the metal floor. They made high-pitched sounds like scared animals. Every person who came near them felt it. A pressure in their mind. A feeling that said danger and run away. It was the natural defense of a Vekthari, even a young one. The cubs huddled together in the corner of the containment room. They would not eat. They would not drink. They just sat there making those sad, frightened sounds. Days passed. The cubs got weaker. Dr. Hyun-woo tried everything. Different foods. Different temperatures. Different lights. Nothing worked. "They're dying," he told Yoon Seo. "I don't know how to help them." Meanwhile, Daeho had been listening to the adults talk. In a small station, everyone heard everything. He knew about the scary creatures in quarantine. He knew they were babies. He knew they were alone and scared. One night after his parents were asleep, Daeho left his family's quarters. He was small and quiet. No one saw him in the hallways. The station was always dim during sleep cycle, with only emergency lights glowing. He found his way to the quarantine section. There was a lock on the door, but it was simple. It was meant to keep things inside, not to keep people out. Daeho had watched his father fix locks before. He knew how they worked. The door opened. Inside, the containment room had a large window. Behind the window were the 2 cubs. They looked sick. Their armored plates were dull. Their 6 eyes were half closed. Daeho walked to the window and pressed his small hand against it. The cubs noticed. 6 eyes on each of them opened wide. They stared at this tiny human child. Daeho smiled. "Hi," he said softly. "Are you okay? You look sad." The cubs looked at each other. Then they looked back at the boy. Slowly, they moved closer to the window. They were careful, like they weren't sure what to do. One of them, the slightly larger one, reached out with a small claw. She touched the window where Daeho's hand was. The boy didn't pull away. He just kept smiling. "My name is Daeho," the boy said. "Do you have names?" "Probably not yet. You're just babies, right? Like my cousin's baby. He can't talk yet either." The cubs tilted their heads. The way Daeho spoke was different from the adults. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't angry. He was just talking to them. Like they were normal. Like they were friends. "I'm going to call you Rin," Daeho said to the larger cub. "And you can be Sol," he said to the smaller one. "Those are nice names. My mom told me about them. They mean jade and pine tree." Pretty things, Rin and Sol watched him. The pressure they sent out, that feeling of danger, started to fade. Just a little. Just around this one small human, Daeho sat down on the floor. "I'm tired," he said. "Can I stay here for a bit?" "I won't bother you. I just want to make sure you're okay." He talked about his day, about his drawings, about the food they had for dinner, about his favorite toy, a small model spaceship his father made for him. The cubs listened. They didn't understand the words, but they understood the tone, the kindness, the gentleness. An hour passed, then two. Daeho's eyes started to close. He was just a little boy, and it was very late. He curled up on the floor and fell asleep. Inside the containment room, Rin looked at Sul. Sul looked back at Rin. They made a decision the way very young creatures do, based on feeling rather than thought. This small thing was not dangerous. This small thing was kind. This small thing felt safe. When Hana found them 3 hours later, she almost screamed. Her son was inside the containment room. The door was open, and the two alien predators were curled up next to him, their bodies pressed against his small form. They were making a sound, deep and rumbling like purring. Hana's hand went to her mouth. She was frozen, terrified to move, terrified to make a sound that might startle them. One of Rin's 6 eyes opened. She looked at Hana. The mother and the cubs stared at each other for a long moment. Then Rin closed her eye again and settled back against the sleeping boy. Commander Yunseo arrived 10 minutes later with security. They all stood in the doorway, staring at the impossible scene. "How do we get him out?" one officer whispered. "We don't," Dr. Hyunwoo said. He had come to, carrying his scanning equipment. "Look at them. They're protecting him. If we try to take him, they'll attack." "They're babies," Yunseo said. "They're still Victhari," the doctor replied. "Those claws can still hurt us." They waited. Morning cycle came. The lights slowly brightened. Daeho woke up confused. He saw the 2 cubs next to him and smiled. Then he saw all the adults in the doorway and realized he was in trouble. Daeho said. "I can explain?" "Come here, Daeho," Hana said, trying to keep her voice calm. "Slowly. Come to me." The boy started to stand. Immediately, Rin and Sol moved. They positioned themselves between Daeho and the adults. Their bodies tensed. The pressure of fear started to build again. "It's okay," Daeho told them. "That's my mom. She's nice. Everyone here is nice, but the cubs didn't move. They didn't trust anyone except this one small human." Daeho thought about it. Then he said, "Can I come back later? To visit them?" Yunseo and Hana looked at each other. This was insane. This was dangerous. This went against every rule. But the cubs were dying before, and now they were alert and active. The only thing that had changed was Daeho. "We'll see," Hana said carefully. "But right now you need to come here, please." Daeho walked toward his mother. Rin and Sul watched but didn't stop him. When he reached the doorway, Hana grabbed him and pulled him out. The door sealed shut. Inside the containment room, the 2 cubs stood alone again. They looked at the door where the small human had gone. Then they looked at each other and made those sad sounds once more. But something had changed. For the first time since their ship died and their family was lost, Rin and Sul had felt something other than fear. They had felt safe. They had felt the gentle touch of kindness. And they wanted to feel it again. Daeho sat in his family's quarters looking at his feet. His parents stood in front of him. Hana's arms were crossed. Taemin looked worried. They had been talking to him for 20 minutes. "You could have been hurt," Hana said for the 3rd time. "Those creatures are dangerous." "They didn't hurt me," Daeho said quietly. "They were scared. They just needed a friend." They're not pets, Taemin said. They're alien predators. When they grow up, they'll be bigger than me, stronger than any human. But they're babies now, Daeho said, and they're all alone. Their family died. Don't you feel sad for them? Hana and Taemin looked at each other. Their son had a point, but that didn't make the situation less dangerous. In the station's medical bay, Dr. Hyunwoo was reviewing the scan data. Commander Yoon Seo stood next to him. The cubs are healthier than they were yesterday, Hyunwoo said. Their vital signs are stronger. They even ate some food this morning. After the boy left, Yoon Seo asked. No, while he was there. When he fell asleep, they ate. Like they felt safe enough to let their guard down. Yoon Seo rubbed her face with her hands. This is insane. We can't use a 6-year-old child as a babysitter for alien predators. I know, Hyunwoo said, but they're dying without him. With him, they're getting better. I've been studying Vecthari biology for years. I've never heard of anything like this. What do you think is happening? Imprinting, maybe. Like birds on Earth. When they hatch, they bond with the first thing they see. The cubs lost their parents. Daeho was the first being to show them kindness. They've attached to him. So what do we do? Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. Then he said, we let him visit them. Under supervision. We study what happens. Maybe we can keep the cubs alive long enough to return them to their people. The Vecthari don't answer our messages, Yoon Seo said. We've been broadcasting for 3 days, nothing. They'll answer eventually. They lost a ship. They'll come looking for it. That was what worried Yoon Seo. When the Vecthari came, they would want answers. And those answers might not be good enough. The next day, a meeting was held. Dr. Hyunwoo presented his idea to the council. Many people were against it, parents especially. They didn't want any child near the cubs, but Ji-won, the diplomat, supported the plan. If we let the cubs die and the Vecthari find out we had them and did nothing, they might see it as murder. If we keep them alive and healthy, we have a chance at peaceful contact. After 2 hours of debate, the council voted. Daeho would be allowed supervised visits with Rin and Sol, 30 minutes a day, always with adults watching. Any sign of aggression, and the visits would stop. When Hana told Daeho, his face lit up with the biggest smile she had ever seen. The first official visit was scheduled for that afternoon. Daeho stood outside the containment room, holding his mother's hand. Dr. Hyunwoo was there with scanning equipment. Commander Yoon Seo stood ready with a security team. Remember the rules, Hana said. Stay near the door. Move slowly. If they seem angry or scared, you come out immediately. I will, Daeho promised. The door opened. Daeho walked in slowly. Rin and Sol were at the far end of the room. When they saw the boy, their 6 eyes lit up. They rushed toward him, their claws clicking on the floor. The security team tensed. But Daeho just laughed. Hi, Rin. Hi, Sol. I came back like I promised. The cubs circled him, touching him with their snouts, making happy chirping sounds. They were excited. The pressure of fear they usually sent out was completely gone around Daeho. The boy sat down and started talking to them. He told them about his breakfast. He showed them a small toy he brought. The cubs examined the toy carefully, sniffing it, touching it with their claws. They're communicating, Dr. Hyunwoo whispered, watching his scanners. Look at their color patterns. The plates on their bodies are changing shade. That's how Vecthari express emotions. What are they saying? Yoon Seo asked. I'm not sure yet, but those blue ripples on Rin? I think that's contentment. And Sol's amber flashing? That might be curiosity or playfulness. For 30 minutes, Daeho played with the cubs. When time was up, Hana called him out. Daeho stood up and said, I have to go now, but I'll come back tomorrow, okay? The cubs made sad sounds but didn't try to stop him. They watched him leave, then curled up together in the corner. The visits continued. Every day, Daeho spent 30 minutes with Rin and Sol. Every day, they got stronger and healthier. Dr. Hyunwoo documented everything, learning more about Vecthari behavior than any scientist had ever known. He discovered that Rin was bold and protective. She always positioned herself between Sol and any potential threat. Sol was gentler, more curious. He liked to investigate everything Daeho brought into the room. The cubs learned to recognize Daeho's emotional states too. When the boy was sad because another child was mean to him, Rin and Sol pressed against him, purring in that deep subsonic way. When he was happy and energetic, they played more actively, chasing the toys he brought. But they didn't trust anyone else. When other people came near the containment window, the cubs would tense up. The pressure of fear would return. Only with Daeho did they relax completely. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. The station started to settle into a routine. Some people even came to watch Daeho's visits through the observation window. It was strange and fascinating to see a small human child playing with creatures that should terrify everyone. Then, on day 23, the alarm bells rang again. Commander Yoon Seo rushed to the control room. "What is it?" "A ship," her officer said. His face was pale. "A big one. Vectari design. It just appeared at the edge of our sensor range. Are they responding to our messages?" "No, they're just sitting there." Watching us, Yoon Seo felt her stomach tighten. This was it. This was what she had been dreading. "How long until they arrive if they come toward us?" "At standard speed?" 3 days. Yoon Seo called an emergency council meeting. Everyone came, even those who usually didn't attend. The station's future was now uncertain. "We have to give the cubs back," one council member said. "Immediately. Before the Vectari think we're holding them hostage." "How do we do that?" another asked. "The cubs won't go near anyone except Daeho." "Then we send the boy out with them," someone suggested. "Absolutely not," Hana said, her voice sharp. "My son is not going onto a Vectari warship." The argument grew heated. Ji-won finally held up her hands for quiet. "We need to think about this carefully. We don't know what the Vectari want. They haven't communicated with us. Maybe they're just checking on their lost ship. Or maybe they're preparing to attack," someone said. "We can't assume the worst," Ji-won insisted. "We need to try peaceful contact first." For hours they debated. Finally, Commander Yoon Seo made a decision. "We send a message. We tell them we found their cubs alive and healthy. We offer to return them safely. We be honest about everything." The message was sent. Then they waited. 1 day passed, 2 days. The Vectari ship remained silent, hanging in space like a dark promise. On the 3rd day, Daeho was having his regular visit with Rin and Sol when the alarm bells rang. Hana immediately went to get him, but Dr. Hyunwoo stopped her. "Look," he said, pointing at his scanners. The cubs were agitated. Their body plates were shifting through rapid color changes. They kept looking up like they could sense something the humans couldn't. Rin paced back and forth. Sol made distressed sounds. "They know," Hyunwoo said. "Somehow they know their own kind are near." Daeho tried to calm them. "It's okay. Everything's okay." But the cubs wouldn't settle. They became more and more anxious. In the control room, Yoon Seo received the news. "The Vectari ship is moving toward us. They'll be here in 4 hours. "Any communication?" she asked. "Yes, one message. It just says prepare for boarding." Yoon Seo's blood went cold. Those words weren't a request. They were a command. The Vectari were coming and nothing would stop them. She activated the station-wide intercom. "All personnel, this is Commander Yoon Seo. We are entering a security situation. All civilians are to return to their quarters. All security personnel report to your stations. This is not a drill." Across the station, families rushed to their homes, doors locked, lights dimmed. Everyone waited in fear. In the containment room, Daeho held Rin and Sol close. They were trembling. The boy had never seen them scared like this before. "What's wrong?" he whispered. "What are you afraid of?" The cubs looked at him with all 6 eyes. In that moment, Daeho understood. They weren't afraid of the approaching ship. They were afraid of being taken away from him, away from the one being in the universe who made them feel safe. "I won't let them take you," Daeho said, even though he was just a small boy with no power at all. "I promise. I won't let anyone hurt you." Rin and Sol pressed against him, and deep in their alien minds they believed him. Outside the station, the massive Vectari warship grew larger and larger, blotting out the stars. The Vectari warship was bigger than anything the colonists had ever seen. It blocked out the view from the station's windows, a massive dark shape covered in sharp angles and aggressive design. Just looking at it made people feel small and helpless. Commander Yoon Seo stood at the docking bay with her security team. They wore their best uniforms, trying to look professional and non-threatening at the same time. Dr. Hyunwoo was there, carrying data tablets with all his research. Ji-won stood ready to translate and negotiate. "Remember," Yoon Seo said quietly to her team, "no weapons visible. Hands where they can see them. We show respect but not fear. Easy to say, one officer muttered. The docking clamps engaged with a heavy clang. The airlock cycled. Everyone held their breath. The door opened. 5 Victari warriors stepped through, and the humans immediately understood why every species in the galaxy feared them. Each warrior stood 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in thick armored plates that gleamed black with red markings. They had 6 eyes that glowed with an inner light, 4 arms, each ending in claws that looked sharp enough to cut metal, and the pressure, the psychic weight of their presence hit the humans like a physical force. Every instinct screamed at the humans to run. Yun Seo forced herself to stand straight. She had faced enemy soldiers before. She had been in combat. But this was different. These beings were built to be apex predators. Evolution had made them perfect killers. The lead warrior stepped forward. He was larger than the others, with more elaborate markings. When he spoke, the translator devices struggled to convert his harsh, clicking language into human words. I am War Master Kang Day of the Victari Empire. You have taken what belongs to us. His voice was cold, not angry, not emotional, just stating a fact. Ji-Wan stepped forward, trying to keep her voice steady. I am Ji-Wan, diplomatic representative of Harmony 7 Colony. We found a damaged Victari ship drifting in space. The crew was dead. We rescued 2 survivors from a biochamber. We have been trying to contact your people to arrange their safe return. Kang Day's 6 eyes fixed on her. You expose sacred bloodlines to contamination. You have touched what should never be touched by lesser species. We saved their lives, Yun Seo said, stepping forward. They were dying when we found them. We gave them medical care. We kept them safe. Kang Day's body plates shifted to a dark red color. You have made them weak, dependent. This is an insult to the Empire. Dr. Hyun-woo spoke up. With respect, War Master, the cubs are healthy, stronger than when we found them. We have documentation of their growth and development. I will see them. Now. It wasn't a request. Yun Seo nodded and led the way through the station corridors. Station personnel pressed themselves against walls as the Victari warriors passed. Children peeked out from doorways, then quickly hid. The warriors ignored everyone, their attention focused and intense. They walked in silence. Finally, they reached the quarantine section. Through the observation window, they could see into the containment room. Daeho was inside, sitting on the floor. Rin and Sol were with him. The boy was showing them pictures in a book, pointing at images and making up stories. The cubs watched with interest, their heads tilted, their body plates showing soft blue colors. The Victari warriors stopped. They stared. Kang Day made a sound harsh and sharp. The translator couldn't interpret it, but the emotion was clear enough: shock, anger, confusion. What is this? He demanded. The cubs have bonded with the boy, Dr. Hyun-woo explained. They were dying when we found them. Nothing we did helped. Then this child visited them and they began to recover. It's a form of imprinting, we believe, a psychological attachment. Impossible, one of the other warriors said. Victari cubs bond with no one. They are raised to be independent, to be strong. Perhaps things are different when they're traumatized, Hyun-woo suggested carefully. They lost their entire family. They were alone in the dark. The child offered them comfort. Kang Day moved closer to the window. Inside, Daeho had noticed the adults. He saw the massive Victari warriors and his eyes went wide. The boy had never seen a full-grown Victari before. He scrambled backward, frightened by their size and their overwhelming presence. Rin and Sol reacted immediately. They moved between Daeho and the window, their small bodies tensing. Their claws extended. Their body plates flashed red, a warning color. They made aggressive sounds, hissing and clicking. The human adults watching held their breath. The Victari warriors stared in disbelief. They're protecting the human, one warrior said. From us, from their own kind. Kang Day's body plates shifted through several colors rapidly. Purple, black, dark blue. The translator called it profound emotional conflict. This is wrong, he said. This is unnatural. They should run to us. They should recognize their own blood. They recognize you, Dr. Hyun-woo said, but they don't trust you. They only trust the boy. Kang Day made a decision. Open the door. I will retrieve them. Wait, Yun Seo said. Please let us prepare the child first. He's frightened. If you burst in, the cubs will attack you to protect him. Someone could get hurt. They are infants. They cannot hurt me. But they could hurt themselves trying. Please, give us a moment. Kangdae considered this. Then he nodded once, sharp and quick. Yunseo spoke into the intercom. Daeho, can you hear me? The boy looked at the speaker. Yes. The Vekthari want to see Rin and Sol. They're not going to hurt anyone. But they need to come into the room. Can you keep the cubs calm? Daeho looked at Rin and Sol. They were still in protective stances, still ready to fight. I don't know. They're really scared. Try, please. Tell them it's okay. The boy turned to the cubs. He put his small hands on their armored heads. It's okay, he said softly. I know they're big and scary, but they're like you. They're your family, maybe. They won't hurt us. Rin and Sol looked at him with all their eyes. They didn't believe it, but they trusted him. Slowly they lowered their aggressive posture, though they stayed between Daeho and the door. The door opened. Kangdae entered alone. His presence filled the room. The pressure of fear he generated was intense. Daeho started to cry. He couldn't help it. His instincts were screaming at him to run, but he stayed sitting, his hands on the cubs. Kangdae approached. Rin and Sol tensed again, ready to attack despite the size difference. Come, Kangdae said in his harsh language. The translator converted it. Return to your people. The cubs didn't move. Kangdae reached for them with two of his forearms. Daeho cried out, "Don't hurt them!" That's when Rin and Sol attacked. They launched themselves at the massive warrior, tiny claws striking at his armored body. They were so small compared to him, but they fought with desperate fury. They weren't fighting for themselves. They were fighting for the crying child behind them. Kangdae caught them easily. One cub in each set of arms. He held them away from his body as they struggled and hissed. He could have hurt them easily. One squeeze and their small bodies would break, but he didn't. He stood there, holding the struggling cubs, and his body plates shifted to that deep purple color again. He looked at Daeho, still sitting on the floor, tears running down his face. Then he looked at the cubs in his arms. They fight not for dominance, Kangdae said quietly. Not for food, not for territory. They fight for love of another being. He lowered the cubs gently. They immediately ran back to Daeho, checking him with their snouts, making worried sounds. The boy hugged them, his small arms barely able to reach around their bodies. I have never seen this, Kangdae said. In all my years, I have never seen Vekthari young show such attachment. Is it wrong? Dr. Hyunwoo asked from the doorway. Kangdae was silent for a long moment. I do not know. Our ways are ancient. Our traditions are sacred. Cubs are raised in harshness to make them strong. Weakness is removed. Dependence on others is shameful. For this, he gestured at Daeho and the cubs. This is something I do not understand. He left the room. The other warriors gathered around him. They spoke in their own language, harsh and fast. The translators couldn't keep up. Finally, Kangdae turned to Yunseo. This matter is beyond my authority. I must consult the matriarchs. They are the eldest females of our kind. They make decisions on matters of tradition and bloodline. How long will that take? Ji-won asked. I do not know. Days, maybe weeks. Until then, the cubs will remain here. I will stay as observer. I must understand what has happened. Yunseo felt relief wash through her. It wasn't over, but at least the station wasn't about to be destroyed. We will cooperate fully. Whatever you need to see, whatever questions you have, we'll answer them. Kangdae looked back at the containment room. Through the window, they could see Daeho had fallen asleep, exhausted from fear and crying. Rin and Sol were curled around him, their body plates glowing soft blue in the dim light. I will watch, Kangdae said. I will learn. And then the matriarchs will decide if what you have done is mercy or crime. The other warriors returned to their ship. Kangdae remained. Quarters were prepared for him, though he barely fit in rooms designed for humans. He spent most of his time at the observation window watching the boy and the cubs. Days passed. Daeho continued his visits, though now with a massive Vekthari warrior watching every moment. At first the boy was terrified, but Kangdae never moved, never threatened. He just watched. 2 weeks passed with War Master Kangdae living on the station. He was a silent, massive presence that made everyone nervous. But he never threatened anyone. He never demanded anything. He simply watched Daeho's daily visits with Rin and Sol, taking notes in a device that translated his observations into Vekthari records. The cubs had grown. They were now almost 4 feet long, their armored plates thicker and more defined. Dr. Hyunwoo measured their development carefully, and found they were growing at a normal rate for their species. The bond with Daeho wasn't making them weak or stunted. If anything, they were healthy and strong. During this time, something unexpected happened. A new Vektari arrived on the station. Her name was Bora. She was smaller than Kangdae, only 7 feet tall but still imposing. Her body plates were marked with symbols that Dr. Hyunwoo's research identified as educational credentials. She was a specialist in cub development, sent by the matriarchs to assess the situation. Bora was more talkative than Kangdae. She asked endless questions about the cubs, about Daeho, about human child-rearing practices. She seemed more curious than angry, which gave the humans hope. In our culture, Bora explained to Dr. Hyunwoo, cubs are raised in groups. They compete for food. They fight for position. The weak are culled naturally. This makes the survivors strong. That sounds harsh, Hyunwoo said carefully. It is necessary. The galaxy is dangerous. Weakness gets you killed. We prepare our young for reality. But Rin and Sul didn't have a group. They were alone when we found them. Yes, this is the problem. Isolated cubs usually die. They have no one to compete with. No one to teach them to be strong. Your human child should not have been able to save them. Maybe kindness is its own kind of strength, Hyunwoo suggested. Bora's body plates shifted to an amber color. Curiosity. Explain. Daeho gave the cubs something to live for. A reason to eat, to grow, to be healthy. Not because they feared punishment, but because they wanted to be with him. Isn't that a kind of strength? The will to live for someone you care about? Bora was quiet for a moment. That is not how we think. But I will observe. I will learn. Then I will report to the matriarchs. She joined Kangdae at the observation window. Together they watched as Daeho played with the cubs. The boy had brought building blocks today, and he was trying to teach Rin and Sul how to stack them. The cubs were more interested in knocking the towers down, which made Daeho laugh. They are playful, Bora noted. This is good. Play teaches hunting skills, combat reflexes. But they play gently, Kangdae observed. They do not hurt the human child even by accident. They control their strength around him. Because they do not want to harm what they love, Bora said. This is unusual. Over the next days, Bora began to interact more directly with the cubs. She entered the containment room while Daeho was there, moving slowly and carefully. Rin and Sul immediately became defensive, but Daeho calmed them. It's okay. She's nice. She wants to teach you things. Bora began running the cubs through basic exercises, reflexes tests, strength measurements, hunting simulations using holographic prey. Rin and Sul performed well, their natural instincts sharp and functional. But they kept looking at Daeho, seeking his approval, his encouragement. They should not care about approval, Bora said. They should only care about success or failure. Maybe they're more motivated when someone cares about them, Daeho said. Bora tilted her head. A gesture Dr. Hyunwoo had learned meant she was considering something deeply. 4 weeks after Kangdae's arrival, everything changed in a single night. A reactor malfunction created a cascade failure in one section of the station. Alarms blared. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, sealing off the damaged area. But several people were trapped inside, including a group of children who had been in the education center. One of those children was Daeho. Hana and Taemin rushed to the sealed section, screaming for their son. Commander Yunseo was already there with her team, trying to override the bulkhead controls. But the system wouldn't respond. The radiation levels were rising. They had maybe 20 minutes before the trapped people would receive fatal doses. We need cutting equipment, Yunseo shouted. Get the emergency torches! In the containment room, Rin and Sul went wild. They sensed Daeho's distress through means humans couldn't understand. Maybe it was smell. Maybe it was some psychic connection. But they knew he was in danger. They threw themselves against the containment door, their claws scraping metal. They screamed, a sound that made everyone on the station cover their ears. Bora ran to the containment section. Kangdae was already there. The cubs were tearing at the door with desperate fury. They know, Kangdae said. They know the human child is in danger. We must stop them before they hurt themselves, Bora said. But before she could act, the containment door gave way. The cubs had weakened it over weeks of scratching and pawing. Now, driven by desperation, they broke through. Rin and Sul burst out into the corridor. Personnel scattered, screaming. But the cubs didn't attack anyone. They ran, following some instinct that pulled them toward Deho. "Follow them," Kangde ordered. The Vekthari warriors and human security ran after the cubs. Rin and Sol reached the sealed bulkhead where Hana was crying and Yunseo was working frantically. The cubs didn't hesitate. They attacked the bulkhead. Their claws were harder than the cutting torches the humans were using. Their strength, even as juveniles, was immense. They tore into the metal, ripping and shredding. Sparks flew. The metal screamed, "Stop them!" someone shouted. "They'll damage the structural integrity." But Kangde held up one arm. "Wait, watch." The cubs weren't attacking randomly. They were precise. They cut along the emergency release seams, the weakest points designed for exactly this kind of rescue. Somehow they knew where to strike. Within 3 minutes, they had torn open a hole large enough for a person to fit through. The trapped children poured out, coughing and scared. Deho was one of the last. When he saw Rin and Sul, his face lit up despite his tears. "You came. You saved us." The cubs rushed to him, checking him all over with their snouts, making worried sounds. Then they did something incredible. They went back through the hole and guided the remaining children out one by one, gentle and careful. Dr. Hyunwoo arrived just in time to see it. They're not just rescuing Deho, they're rescuing all the children. Bora's body plates flashed through multiple colors. This is not Vekthari behavior. We save our own. We do not risk ourselves for strangers. Maybe they learned it from Deho, Hana said, hugging her son tightly. He's kind to everyone. Maybe they're learning to be kind too. The last child was pulled free just as the radiation alarms reached critical levels. Commander Yunseo sealed the section remotely, and the emergency teams moved in to handle the reactor problem. Everyone was safe. Because 2 young Vekthari had chosen to save them. That night, Bora and Kangde had a long conversation in their own language. The humans couldn't understand it, but they could see the intense gestures, the rapid color changes in both warriors' body plates. Finally, Bora approached Yunseo. "I must send a report to the matriarchs. What I have witnessed today changes everything I thought I knew about cub development." "What will you tell them?" Yunseo asked. "The truth, that these cubs have bonded with a human child, that this bond has not made them weak. It has made them something new, something we have never seen before. They are strong and capable, but they use their strength to protect rather than to dominate. Is that good or bad in your culture?" Bora was quiet. "I do not know. That is for the matriarchs to decide." The next week the answer came. 3 more Vekthari ships arrived. Not warships this time, but transport vessels. They carried the matriarchs themselves, the ancient females who ruled Vekthari society. The eldest was called Sun-hee by the humans, though her real name was unpronounceable. She was massive, even larger than Kangde, her body covered in scars from centuries of life. Her 6 eyes were pale with age but still sharp and intelligent. She demanded to see everything, the cubs, the boy, the records of their development. She watched Deho's visits. She reviewed Bora's reports. She spoke with Dr. Hyunwoo about human-child psychology. Then she announced there would be a test. "We will separate the cubs from the human child for 7 days," Sun-hee declared. "We will place them in a traditional Vekthari training environment. If they thrive, they can return to their people and be raised properly. If they fail, it will prove they need the human." "And if they need him?" Hana asked, her voice shaking. "What then?" "Then we will make a decision that has never been made in our history," Sun-hee said. The separation began the next day. Rin and Sul were taken to the Vekthari transport ship. Deho cried as they were led away. The cubs struggled and called for him, but the Vekthari warriors were firm. For 7 days, Deho was miserable. He barely ate. He didn't want to play. He just sat by the window looking at the Vekthari ships, waiting. On the ships, Rin and Sol were put through traditional training. They were given live prey to hunt. They were placed in competition with holographic opponents. They were taught combat, survival, hunting. They refused it all. They wouldn't eat. They wouldn't compete. When Deho had never been on a Vekthari ship before. Everything was too big, designed for beings much larger than humans. The corridors were dark and warm, with a strange smell that reminded him of metal and something organic he couldn't identify. Hana held his hand tightly as Bora led them through the ship. "The cubs are dying," Bora said quietly. "They refuse food. They refuse training. They only want you. Why did you take them away then? Hana asked, anger in her voice. We had to know, Bora replied. We had to see if the bond could be broken, if they could return to being proper Vekthari. Now we know. They cannot. They reached a large chamber. Inside, Rin and Sol lay motionless on the floor. Their body plates were dull gray, lifeless. Their eyes were barely open. Medical equipment surrounded them, monitoring their failing vital signs. Deho pulled free from his mother's hand and ran to them. Rin, Sol! I'm here. The cubs' eyes opened wider. Their heads lifted slightly. When they saw the boy, they made weak chirping sounds. Deho threw his arms around them, crying, I missed you so much. Please don't die, please. Rin and Sol's body plates began to glow with color again. Blue, amber, the healthy colors. They pressed against the boy, purring in that deep subsonic way. Within minutes, their vital signs started to stabilize. Matriarch Sunhee watched from the doorway. Her ancient eyes saw everything. She turned to Kangdae and Bora. This is not weakness. This is a bond deeper than anything we understand. The cubs will die without the human child. They have chosen him as their family. What does this mean for them? Kangdae asked. It means we must make a choice that goes against our traditions, Sunhee said. But traditions exist to serve our people, not to destroy them. If we take these cubs from the human, they will die. If we kill the human to free the cubs from dependence, they will die. The only path that keeps them alive is to honor the bond. She entered the chamber. Deho looked up at the massive matriarch and felt fear, but he didn't let go of the cubs. Human child, Sunhee said. Her voice translated into words Deho could understand. Do you know what you have done? I just wanted to help them, Deho said, his voice small. They were sad and alone. You have bound two Vekthari to your heart. This is a bond that cannot be broken without death. Will you accept this responsibility? They will grow large and dangerous. They will live for many of your lifetimes. Can you promise to care for them, to guide them, to be their family? Deho looked at Rin and Sul. They looked back at him with all their eyes. He thought about what Sunhee said. It was scary. It was a big responsibility for a kid who was only 6 years old. But when he looked at the cubs, he knew there was only one answer. Yes, he said. I promise. I'll take care of them forever. Sunhee's body plates shifted to a deep purple color. Then I make a decision that has never been made in Vekthari history. These cubs will remain with you. They will be raised in your human ways, but they will also learn Vekthari ways. Bora will stay on your station to teach them our combat skills, our survival techniques, our language. But you, human child, will teach them what we cannot. You will teach them compassion. Kangdae stepped forward. Matriarch, this is unprecedented. The council will object. The council will accept it, Sunhee said firmly. I have seen something here that our people need to learn. We have made ourselves strong through harshness, but perhaps there is another kind of strength. Perhaps caring for others, protecting the weak, choosing love over dominance, perhaps these things do not make you weak. Perhaps they make you stronger in ways we have forgotten. She looked at all the Vekthari in the room. We will watch these cubs grow. We will see what they become. And if they prove that strength and compassion can exist together, then perhaps our entire people will learn something new. The decision was made. Deho, Rin, and Sol returned to Harmony 7 Station. Bora came with them, taking up permanent residence as the Cubs' combat instructor and cultural teacher. The months that followed were busy. Rin and Sol grew rapidly. By the time Deho turned 7, the Cubs were already 6 feet long and still growing. They were getting strong, their claws sharp, their reflexes lightning fast. Every morning, Bora put them through combat training. She taught them how to hunt, how to fight, how to survive in hostile environments. The cubs excelled at these lessons. They had all the natural abilities of their species, but every afternoon they spent time with Deho. He taught them games. He read them stories. He showed them how to be gentle, how to help others, how to be friends rather than just warriors. Other human children on the station, who had been terrified of the cubs at first, slowly started to accept them. When Rin and Sul rescued those children from the reactor accident, something changed. The cubs weren't just scary aliens anymore. They were protectors. A year passed. Then 2. Deho was now 8 years old. Rin and Sul were nearly full-grown, each standing 7 feet tall when they reared up on their back legs. They could have killed any human on the station with ease, but they never threatened anyone. They were gentle around the smaller children, careful with their claws, aware of their own strength. One day, a group of pirates attacked a civilian transport near the station. Commander Yunseo scrambled her security forces, but they were outgunned. The pirates had better weapons and more experience. That's when Rin and Sol asked to help. "We can fight," Rin communicated through the translator Bora had taught her to use. "We can protect," Yunseo hesitated. "You're still young. It's dangerous." "We are Vekthari," Sul said. "Fighting is what we are made for. But we fight for those we care about, not for conquest. Let us help." Deho held their claws. "Be careful. Come back safe." The cubs joined the defense force. When the pirates boarded the station, they found themselves facing two Vekthari warriors. Rin and Sul fought with all the skill Bora had taught them, combined with something the pirates didn't expect. They fought as a team. They protected the human security officers. They disabled rather than killed when possible. They showed mercy to enemies who surrendered. The pirates fled, terrified and defeated. After that day, Rin and Sul became official protectors of Harmony 7. They patrolled the station. They trained with security forces. But every night they still came back to Deho's quarters, curling up near his bed, purring contentedly. When Deho turned 12, the matriarchs returned for a final evaluation. Rin and Sul were now fully grown, magnificent specimens of Vekthari biology. They were strong, skilled, intelligent, but they were also kind. They helped repair station damage. They rescued people in emergencies. They played with human children carefully and gently. Matriarch Sunhee conducted extensive tests: combat ability, problem-solving, leadership potential. Rin and Sul passed every measure. They were everything a Vekthari should be, but they were also more. "They are strong enough to be warriors," Sunhee announced, "but wise enough to choose peace when possible. They are loyal to their own kind, but also to others they have come to care about. This is a new kind of Vekthari, a better kind, perhaps." She turned to the gathered Vekthari council who had come to witness the evaluation. "I propose a new program. We will send more of our cubs to be raised in mixed environments, not to make them weak, but to teach them that strength comes in many forms, that protecting others is as honorable as defeating enemies, that compassion is not weakness, but wisdom." The council debated for hours. Some were horrified by the idea. Others were intrigued. Finally, they voted. The program was approved, but only as an experiment. A few cubs would be sent to live with other species. The results would be monitored carefully. Harmony 7 became the center of this new initiative. Other Vekthari cubs arrived, paired with human, alien, and mixed families. Bora trained them all in combat skills, but the families taught them compassion, cooperation, and care. 5 years later, Deho was 17 years old. Rin and Sol stood 8 feet tall, fully mature Vekthari. They served as liaisons between the Vekthari Empire and the human colonies. They helped negotiate treaties. They protected trade routes. They became famous across the galaxy as the proof that even the fiercest predators could choose to be guardians rather than conquerors. Other species started similar programs with their own young. Cubs, pups, hatchlings of various species were raised in mixed environments. Slowly, the galaxy started to change. Old hatreds began to fade. Different species learned to see each other not as threats, but as potential friends. Deho went to university to study xenobiology and interspecies relations. Rin and Sul went with him, of course. They never left his side unless duty called them away, and even then they always came back. One evening, Deho sat in the observation deck of the station where it all began. He was looking at the stars, thinking about how much had changed since he was 6 years old and found 2 scared cubs in a containment room. Rin and Sol lay beside him, as they always did. They weren't cubs anymore. They were powerful warriors, respected across the galaxy. But here, with him, they were still just his friends. His family. "Do you ever regret it?" Deho asked them. "Bonding with me instead of being raised traditionally?" Rin's body plates glowed soft blue, the color of contentment. "We would have died without you. You gave us life. You gave us purpose. You taught us that being strong doesn't mean being alone.